Hi, my name is Fred Joly. My song is entitled Behind His Mask, and I would like to dedicate it to all my brothers and sisters living on the margins of society. I hope you enjoy it. Sitting there with a suitcase in his hand. He's been drinking there for years and years. Whenever he's tired, he just beds down on the sands. Does anybody know him? Can someone please tell me his name? Because whenever I see him walking through the city, he keeps his head down and chin.
This morning I was asked to be a speaker in a social audit group. I'm a recipient or a user of the York Region Food Bank. 4 years ago, if you had told me I would find myself in this situation, I was fully employed, getting ready to retire basically, I would have laughed at you. Within a period of 1 year, I lost a wife to breast cancer and found out that my son had manic depression, or as we say now, to be politically correct, bipolar, exactly. And so with my 3 grandchildren, I moved in with him and I take care of my 3 grandchildren. I found that our financial situation was such that a year ago I had to come to a food bank. I initially, when I came, I sat in my car in the parking lot for 2 hours before I would come in saying, how in the heck did I get here? Why am I here? Had to tell myself that it was for my grandchildren.
It's great that ISARC has brought this group together. It's great the work that's happening across the region. What's especially great is that you've all taken time out of your zany schedules to be here and speak about this. When I was asked to facilitate, I said there's 2 problems. One, I don't listen well, I prefer to speak. But 2, a group like this does not need a facilitator. All we need to do is point to the questions and you'll all jump in freely. So we hope to make this an open discussion, very free, and to get to some of the issues. We're lucky today to have 3 rapporteurs, which is a great term. 3 community leaders who many of you will know, and I'll ask to introduce themselves, whose only job for the hour and a half will be to sit, listen, and write.
I find that most of the social networking here, most of the programs, people are excellent. But I think there are stigmas attached to getting social assistance, coming to food banks, that are unnecessary. The people who use them, for the vast majority, are there through circumstances, not through want. And those are the things I think that we really have to understand, is that these people don't want to be there. It's the old story about how do you give a man a bag of potatoes, or do you give him the seeds and teach him how to plant the potatoes himself? And that's what we have to do. I think we have to do more networking, more training, more awareness. The thing that I've discovered with myself is that your dignity, your self-worth, and evaluating who you are become somewhat traumatic. So as I was saying this morning to the people I was talking to, you have to, if you want to help me, give me back me. Help me become self-sufficient again.
My name is Victor Woodhouse. I'm a councillor in the town of Newmarket. I guess my closest connection would be the room that you're sitting in. This is the men's sleeping room 1 for In From the Cold. It's obviously I've been involved with In From the Cold and Tom Taylor right from the beginning, and I still sit on the board. So it's and a volunteer here. So during the winter months, this houses our local homeless, no matter where they come from. So it's certainly given me some insight, and it's done almost exclusively by volunteers. So it's very helpful for the community as well to see the poverty and to see what causes homelessness.
My topic is Canada and its politicians write off the poor, and today from my point of view, especially the working poor. A little history. Canada is not the greatest country in the world, as my local politician Lois Brown preaches. It may be for those who have done well most of their life, but my family was put through hell because of the damages caused by this country. My father was killed on the job. He was electrocuted working for North York Hydro. I cannot forget how my family was mistreated and ridden off by this country, and how me and my sister were targeted by perverted male predators. Because my mother was young, healthy, and pregnant, with 2 young children, she was put in a psychiatric hospital, given electric shock, aborted, and sterilized. My sister and I basically grew up on our own. In 1960, my mother married a pedophile who took control of everything, including raping me. He eventually got rewarded when workman's compensation gave him the last of my father's death benefits to his estate after my mother had died and he had died. My sister again and I again were left out. There was no protection for us. My mother, my sister, and I were treated like dirt.
There's women's shelters if they're battered, but there's not women's shelters, at least in the South York region, if they're homeless. Or not that I'm aware of or easy. I think they've got to go quite a ways. Where, like the shelter that I work with, is primarily male. Not that we have the, it's not that we don't want to do it, but there's not the resources, etc. But there's a lack of, I believe, throughout York region. You can tell me otherwise.
There almost seems to be a disconnect sometimes between the southern part of York region and the northern part of York region. There's been a women's homeless shelter in the town of Georgina for over 20 years, and it's provided that service to all residents of York region. And sometimes we find, even when we go to the talk of a new women's shelter, that it's going to be the second women's shelter in York region. It's the third. There is one up and running, fully funded, that deals with all the communities in York region. It's called Sandy, and it's been there for over 20 years. The issue that I wanted to raise, though, as far as what I've seen, especially in the last 5 years, is the issue of the, what I've seen more is the working poor, I guess. Mm-hmm. There's a disconnect with respect to the reality of what it costs in York region today to give yourself some housing and food.
Affordable housing. My husband's a pensioner. He also works as a taxi driver. He makes next to nothing because now the economy's down, a lot of jobs have gone. He used to get business from Magna, from Quebec Corps, and those businesses are pretty well history. My husband has stubs for teeth. I have one tooth that broke off, and now the gum is growing over it. I used to have a job where I had a dental plan, and that was years ago. And I had dental work, but now the fillings are falling apart, and this one tooth in particular has fallen apart so much that the gums are going over it. And Tom told me about some guy that died because of poison going to his head from bad teeth. Wow. I personally believe dental health should be universal. For 13 years I worked in advertising at Shoppers Drug Mart. I haven't been able to get a good job since. Temp jobs here and there. Hired for a day or two retail, next day said they don't need you for a few days, and that was it. We had a house, we've had houses. We had one almost paid for, but we lost our jobs, had to sell the house over 15 years ago. We've been renting and struggling to pay the rent ever since. Our names are on waiting lists for housing. but who knows how long that will take. There are times when I am not sure what to do. Should I pay the rent, pay the utilities, have heat and hydro, get my diabetic medication, get my teeth fixed, get groceries, or what? What do you think should be the priority? Please, Lois Brown, stop emphasizing the greatness of this country until you stop writing off the poor and unfortunate who never had an opportunity to do better. And I'm sorry, Frank Cleese, when I talk to you about the challenges I have in life, that you feel insulted, so insulted that you won't answer my emails, so insulted that you won't talk to me. You don't care either. The other day I was told I need healing from the past. I thought about it. As long as people are mistreated for whatever reason, poverty, fatherlessness, choices, I will feel pain. For me, especially as long as little girls are raped and murdered like Holly Jones and Victoria Strafford, I will feel pain. I could have been killed too, except for by the grace of God. Poverty is not just a monetary state.
Before we get to how has your view of poverty changed, to break it down to what does poverty look like in your municipality and how has that changed over the last few years, if at all?
What I've noticed starting to happen is that it's hitting certain groups. And one of the groups that, for example, that you start seeing it with is the seniors, where they're living on fixed income more and more.
I live like a one bedroom. I pay $881.90 now, but like starting July the 1st, it'd be increasing like another $20. That'd be $900.42. Like groceries, like sometimes it's about 130, and I have other bills, and like from the check, like sometimes I have like about $100, and like over-the-counter drugs and that, you know, like and like I have like an IBS, like you have to buy different stuff over the counter. I tried to get extra money, but they wouldn't give it to me, like the government. You know, I'm trying to get in subsidized housing, but trying out, but it's been going on for 12 years. Quite a long time, you know. But it's not very healthy, the place I'm living, you know, like it just keeps going up, you know, you don't know what to do. I guess that's the end thing.
The other groups that you see are some young people.
I'm Cody. I've been an honor student since, well, throughout my whole school. And a couple years ago, I moved into a house and it was filled with mold and I got sick. So then I had to miss some days from school and I had to go down to the hospital. And the whole time I was going to the hospital, the doctors, they'd laugh at me in my face when I told them how sick I was and how much pain I was. They'd just laugh at me and say I wasn't sick, I was trying to make it all up. So then we found out about the mold, and then as soon as we told them about the mold, they got worse. And they just tried to say mold doesn't make you sick, that we're still making it all up. And we had to find different doctors and different testing, so I did get one test done, and I had to send it down to the States. And then the testing showed that I had aspergillus in my blood, and then we thought I'd start to get help. But the help, it's really hard to get, and the stuff, it's really expensive, and there's no help or any funding or anything at all for the mold. And also now, I'm in high school, grade 9, last semester. I had to miss I was doing really good, I was top of my grade, but since the school I moved to didn't have enough funding, they couldn't send any help or anything, so they had to keep me back even though I was getting top grades.
David was talking about out of the coal, where you're starting to see some of these groupings throughout the community. And the other place where it started hitting me was when we went to some of the schools to feed breakfast to some of the kids. They're not having breakfast in the morning. And you know, like that's why it's been hidden. You don't know about it, but all of a sudden when you start getting involved with the schools where you're feeding them breakfast, or you're going to the seniors' homes and you find out that they're just living on $10,000 a year in today's society, it's just mind-boggling, especially in York Region. And so you're starting to see it hit specific groups, single parents or seniors or children.
My name is Donna, and I would like to do a summary of the social audit today. I am here to represent everyone living in poverty. We all have unique stories. There's similarities to each and every one of them. I've been raising 4 sons. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and my sons are going through serious illness at this time due to multiple moves, emergency moves, high levels, major levels of toxic mold. At this time, we don't even have a family doctor. As soon as you get more and more adding up from living in poverty, they just dismiss you, and then you move on to another one and you're told you're too complicated.
Vito Spatafora, Regional Councillor, Richmond Hill. Been involved with actually a lot of issues concerning poverty from social housing.
There's housing issues. We lived in subsidized housing before. We had been there over 10 years, always helped others whenever we could. No complaints ever against us. Then they're moving around high risk to society people from one housing to another. We get one moved in next door to us. They're abusive to me and my sons. Known to all York Regional Police, spitting on us, threatening our lives. We're witnessing violent fights with weapons in front of our home. And then they retaliate when you call 911, and then you're used as a witness, even if you say you want to remain anonymous, to the point we had no choice but to move out of housing.
For me, that's probably, as you tell, I'm looking at the first question about how my view of poverty has changed in the last 5 years. And it really is phrased the right way, because I don't think poverty's changed that much in the last 5 years, although there is some demographic shift, but I think my view has, and it's probably to what Rob's saying, which is I think by virtue of the job to a certain degree and other things, we're starting to get a more, I think, thorough understanding. I wouldn't say I'm by any means an expert, but a more thorough understanding of what poverty is, and where I'm going with that is that it's pretty multifaceted. And I think we tend to, when we talk about poverty, jump right to food banks and shelters, homeless shelters, and I think certainly that's an important part of the efforts to address poverty, but poverty is much more like you're working for, like people in. And so, for me, my view that's changed is that it's, I think we tend to think of poverty as a fringe issue or something that exists or is manifested in the fringes of society, and it's not. It's mainstream.
ODSP disability gives my family $859 for shelter for the whole entire month. That's impossible if you're no longer able to be in subsidized housing and have to go out into a private rental. I'm paying $1,350 just for the rent, and then the utilities are on top of it. So to have a shelter over your heads, you have to use your living expenses.
What does poverty look like in your municipality, and how has that changed over the last 5 years?
Poverty's all over the place. It's just not in one place. Like Toronto, there are people sleeping on the heat fence just to be warm, and they should have be more organized to give people that are homeless chances of finding a place to get into.
What's the message you can give it to the government or to the provincial or federal government?
Yeah.
Well, so what would you say to them if you had a chance?
What you can say to them?
Like myself, I was homeless for a while, right, at the Good Shepherd in Toronto, and I was there for about 3 months, but they got me a place that was geared to income, had my own 1-bedroom. It was okay, but it took a while to get it going. I think there should be more buildings like this one going around.
Okay.
Where if someone needs any kind of information, they just go here and they'll give you the information.
Okay.
All over the place, not just one.
Yeah, it should be spread out and there should be lots of them.
Yeah, there should be lots of them.
Yeah. And do you think shelters are a solution for people who are homeless, or just a temporary measure?
Just a temporary measure.
Yeah.
The object is for them to get their own place.
Okay.
Right? But still come here to get the food.
Yeah.
But at least they'd have their home place, and they'd feel more secure, and they'd feel more like a man.
Yes.
Right? Or women too, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But more than anything, it gives you more of a security, right?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
He's been drinking there for years and years. Whenever he's tired, he just beds down on the sands. Does anybody know him? Can someone please tell me his name? Because whenever I see him walking through the city, he keeps his head down the chain. He's like a refugee. Is he just another shipwreck of societies? Or is just a rebel, venting up the angers from his past into a twisted fantasy? The empty bottles are escapes from his reality. He bums around wearing a loner's mask.
But now I'm starting to see people that are actually out there. I'm not sure if it's the right term. I'm begging, and you actually see them out there. And so I think we're starting to see the urbanization of some of the northern municipalities, and with that, I think poverty is coming out of it really more. We're actually starting to see it on a regular basis everywhere around. That's the sort of thing I've noticed in terms of how the change has occurred.
My name is Neil, and I'd just like to share with you, there's a lot of people through York Region and South Simcoe that are homeless. You know, just because we don't see them on the grates like we do in Toronto, and them keeping warm doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Being out throughout the day from the shelters and that isn't given the clients the support that they need within turning people away, sending them all the way up the barrier down to Toronto, for which I don't think it's fair that there's only one homeless shelter within the York Region area.
In 1984, I lost both my parents 7 months apart, and they were my best friends. And my dad worked for Chrysler's Canada as a general foreman inspector, and he never missed a day of work until the day he died. And my mother, he died May the 11th, and my mother died December 8th. And from then on, I moved to Toronto 2 years later in '86, and I felt more open-minded people. It was really great. Worked in the bar scene, and had a nice place, nice people, nice friends, and decided one evening to walk through Regent Park at 2 in the morning, which is not something I would recommend anybody to do.
The morning sun's an awakening misery, no doubt another awful day. Cramped from the cold, misty, whispering night. He doesn't want to go, but he knows that he cannot stay. Stumbles to the ground and on his hands and knees, mud dripping off of his face. Tears draw lines down streetwise cheeks. He cries out, "Somebody help me, please."
I was beaten into a coma and left for dead, and they never did catch the people who did it.
I'm a refugee, and I'm running from the scorns of this society, and I'm in a lot of trouble, 'cause I'm drifting at sea with a broken mast. while everybody's judging me.
When he was assaulted, following the assault, he became suicidal and overdosed on medications. These injuries led him to be taken to the St. Michael's Hospital, where he was intubated.
I'm just trying to find my own destiny. Looks about time to put on my keep away from the mask. Years of living in the back alley worlds distorts even the clearest minds. The never-ending struggle to go on surviving leaves any dreams far behind. Today is another bad memory, and the tomorrows will all be the same. He gets so sick and tired of playing in his losing game, Lord, can't you take away his pain?
So I ended up homeless on the streets of Toronto for a short period of time in my life. But I never gave up hope. Hope is the one thing I think we should all hang on to. No matter who you are, if you're out there, just believe in yourself. Don't listen to others. Follow that inner gut feeling, and it will guide you the right way. I always believe in that.
A lot of people I know do have drug and alcohol addiction problems. The staff up there is supposed to be there to help, and from my point of view, from me being up there, and that there has not been much help given to the individuals on the homeless side.
Died there just the other day. I showed up at his sally and service. The captain tried, but he didn't know how to say that there's a new star's light shining on this world. A tortured soul has been set free. He spent his final moments scribbling in the sands. I think I see my liberty. Look way up at the refugee. Can't you see the castaway of societies? Can't you see the castaway of societies? No wonder he was a rebel. He's been carrying all the hurts from his past into a fantasy, doing what he can to escape his own realities. From up above beams down a man behind his mask.
I would just like the government to hear the cries of the people, especially people who have nobody, no family, and aren't sure who to turn to, and they don't have proper representation. I'm hoping and praying that they will hear and really be concerned about the people that need the help the most, and not to disregard the voices of the poor. That's all I've got to say.